Your promoter, Bob Arum, says he wants to make a fight between you and Shawn Porter. Both you and Porter have said it's going to be about us. We're going to decide if we make that fight. Have you had a chance to talk to Shawn in the last week, and where does that stand?
No, not at all. Like I said, that's not a fight that I'm focused on right now or even worried about. I'm focused on other things right now.
You're not interested in a Porter fight?
Well, if we had to fight, and if it made sense, then that would be a fight that we both would agree upon. But I feel like right now, that's not something that we should discuss right now because it's nothing on the table for me.
We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego Unpacked. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Terence Crawford says he's not interested or focused on the fight with friend Shawn Porter. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chat channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family, the Cash App. We working. Sign up for ESPN Plus below using my link, and it definitely helps the channel. I appreciate that. Now, Crawford did an interview with DAZN. He was there in support of his stablemate and friend, Maurice Hooker, who was on that DAZN card, Eddie Hearn fighter, and Crawford went to lend his support. In there, he did an interview with DAZN, and I'll put the link in the description. It was a little bit shocking. A lot of people wanted me to talk about it. He openly says that he is not interested or focused on fighting Shawn Porter. They have a friendship, and he's looking at other options, basically. This is what he said directly. Crawford says he was asked about fighting Shawn Porter. There's a lot of talk about it. Kenny Porter said he wants it. Shawn says he's down. Porter and Crawford basically said the decision won't be a PBC thing, won't be an ESPN or Top Rank thing, won't be Heyman, won't be Bob Arum. If they did fight, it'd be because of they agreed to make the fight. This is what Crawford had to say when asked about Shawn Porter. Quote, "That's not a fight that I'm focused on right now or even worried about. I'm focused on other things right now. If we had to fight and if it made sense, then that would be a fight that we would both have to agree upon. But right now, I feel like that's not something we should even discuss right now because there's nothing on the table for me." So, he really kind of downplayed it. Then he was asked about going up to 54. Like, would you go to 54? There's a champion, Patrick Teixeira, who's with Golden Boy. Did you see his fight? And he said, yeah, he looked all right. I'm really focused on 147, so that's where I'm at right now. So, he didn't really give too much in this interview. Looked almost like he kind of didn't want to talk, or he didn't give anything like massive headlines, quotable. You know how sometimes fighters are in a certain mood and they start giving like TMZ a crazy interview with all the scoop and a bunch of crazy sound bites. This wasn't that type of interview. He was just like almost going through the motions. But I want to talk about it again. A lot of people reached out and they wanted to know my thoughts on Terence Crawford versus Shawn Porter. First of all, for me, I'm a boxing fan. I don't know personally about their friendship or whatever sideline stuff, but I want to see the fight. I'm a fan of both. I think they both could scrap. It's a fight that I would like to see. I also feel, listen, and no one's going to be able to take my words and like confuse them. Be clear. I think Terence Crawford is a phenomenal talent. I even have him #1 pound for pound based on his skill set, his ability to make mid-fight adjustments. He's a beast when it comes to any of that. He's definitely a beast. But I think he has the wrong idea and approach here. I think, like I've said many a times, and this is not an insult, beggars can't be choosers. I don't think him or his promoter are in really a position of power, meaning who he could fight. They don't really have credible name-known, recognizable options for Terence Crawford that make for compelling fights. So with that being said, you're kind of at the mercy of what fights you can get. Obviously, people want to see Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford for obvious reasons. Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, a good fight. People consider him 1A, 1B. But PBC clearly has a plan for Errol Spence to build his star power, to try to put him in positions to grow his brand and ultimately unify and collect belts. So I think they're doing this because Crawford and Bomac and Top Rank, they've kind of come at the situation, the perceived Crawford Spence, in my opinion, kind of the wrong way. And they said stuff like this is a 50-50 fight, or we're the A side, this type of thing. So I think PBC is just pulling rank, big bank, take little bank, putting Errol Spence in big fights, building his brand, and allowing him to solidify his A side. Because right now, Errol Spence has had bigger fights this year, in terms of anticipation. He fought Mikey Garcia in his home state of Texas. It had 50,000 plus people there. That was a good event. He dominated Mikey Garcia, nearly stopped him in the 9th round. And then he came back and fought Shawn Porter, which is a great, credible win. Shawn Porter's never been dog walked by anybody, and Shawn Porter was a champion. He unified. So right now, this is kind of going according to plan from what I see, and I predicted this a long time ago. Errol Spence has 2 belts. How can he not be perceived as the A side, or the lion's share of the money, when he has more belts? He has the bigger names privy to him. He's fought the Kell Brooks. He fought Lamont Peterson. He fought Shawn Porter. And, we know he was about to fight Danny Garcia up until his accident. So the track he's on, it's just like Top Rank won't be able to compete because they don't have contemporaries. Listen, this is another reason why I think Crawford kind of has the wrong idea here, is because he says something to the effect of, like, I don't need PBC guys. And I don't agree with that. I think he's a skilled fighter, but throughout history in boxing, everybody needs a contemporary. Mayweather needed rivals. Like, people don't realize it because Mayweather was able to show so much separation, but Mayweather had rivals like Pacquiao, Zab Judah, right? Shane Mosley at the time, De La Hoya. You need contemporaries, people who are considered equally good, have a chance. They have, like, Oscar De La Hoya's body of work. Look at his resume at the time he fought Floyd Mayweather. He had fought Julio Cesar Chavez twice, Shane Mosley twice. He had already fought Mayorga and Arturo Gatti, Pernell Whitaker, Ike Cortez. I mean, these fights had already happened by the time he fought Mayweather, so he was a known commodity. And that's the fight that really catapulted and took us out of the Pretty Boy Floyd era into the Money May era. And Forbes list just did an updated list of the highest paid athletes of the decade, and guess who was number 1? Mayweather. So for Terence Crawford, who skillfully can do a lot, for him to ever reach those heights, he's gonna have to fight not only the guys with skill. Like me personally, I think Crawford has some good names on his resume, but the unfortunate thing is he's fighting the various styles and good fighters, but good fighters that don't have big brands. They haven't been branded, and that's kind of part of the package deal. People are looking at it as the whole shebang. Floyd beating big names like Pacquiao, and Maidana had just beaten Broner, Shane Mosley, Ricky Hatton undefeated, guys about before he fought them. That aids and makes the win in the event just overall bigger. I don't really see Top Rank as having that with Terence Crawford. They don't have these names that can make massive. They have to load up the undercard and put Teofimo, Richard Comey on it, stuff like that to make it more of a spectacle. Or, like Bob Arum was talking about, take Terence Crawford to Africa or South Africa, different things like this. So this is the conundrum that he's in. So when it comes to a fight with Shawn Porter, I think he should absolutely, if that's the fight you can get, because again, you're not going to be able to, beggars can't be choosers. You're not going to be able to force Errol Spence and PBC to move how you want them to move. It's just, that's not going to happen. And I think they have a smart game plan that every promoter would do. If you can make an in-house fight that are credible, then you're going to do that. It's easy, in-house money. You're in charge of the winner's career already. So this is Top Rank is no different. They had in-house fight, and to a fault, they could have made a great in-house fight for Terence Crawford in Manny Pacquiao, but they didn't do it. Why didn't they do that when Pacquiao was with them? So, Terence Crawford, he doesn't really have anyone to blame but his own side. This is the business that they've come up with and the path that they've done. So, in my opinion, I would like to see the Shawn Porter fight. And I think Bob Arum also went about it wrong, saying Al Heyman's the devil and the cancer of boxing, and he ruined boxing. These types of things, these rants that he's done in these interviews. And I don't think that brings you any closer to being in a position of power and or making the fight. Beyond doing that, he also, I think it was around the Jose Benavidez fight, I went to that fight, Bob Arum was undermining everybody else but Errol Spence. He said, the only guy we want for Terence Crawford is Errol Spence. And he totally ex-nayed the idea of fighting against guys like Shawn Porter and Danny Garcia. Meanwhile, Shawn Porter just raised his profile by giving Errol Spence, a hellacious fight. So that's my thoughts. I really don't understand the logic of the comments from Crawford in terms of if you don't have the contemporaries for a star build, then why not fight Shawn Porter? That's how I look at it. Because he's already ran through everybody of note that works with Top Rank that I can think of or that would be meaningful around his division, 147. From Jose Benavidez, he stopped him. Jeff Horn stopped him. Mean Machine stopped him. Felix Diaz stopped him. So he already fought Thomas Delorme at a previous weight and stopped him. So Victor Postal stopped him. Well, actually, he almost stopped him, So the only other people would be like Jose Ramirez if he beats Victor Postal in China, and he moves up to 47, or Amir Imam or something who just signed with Top Rank. But to me, those fights, no one's going to perceive Amir Imam. Jose Ramirez already stopped Amir Imam at 140, as did Adrian Granados. So there's no way anyone's going to perceive Amir Imam at 147 versus Crawford as a more meaningful fight than Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter has never been dog-walked by anybody. The people who have beaten Shawn Porter arguably didn't, and they were close fights. So I don't understand it. If you guys understand it, drop it in the comment section. But some of the recent comments from Crawford, he said stuff like, I don't need the PBC guys, they need me. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't really add up. That doesn't make sense to me. I still think he needs those fights, probably more than them, because they have a bigger stable of contemporary rivals. They could keep fighting. Shawn Porter, based on how he looked versus Errol Spence, if Danny Garcia beats Ivan Radcash, they could do a Shawn Porter, Danny Garcia part 2. They could do Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia. They could do Errol Spence versus Shawn Porter part 2. They could do Keith Thurman versus Shawn Porter part 2. They could do Shawn Porter versus Pacquiao. They could do Pacquiao versus Danny Garcia, right? They can do Errol versus Danny Garcia. Any way you slice it, they have more hitters and they have more contemporaries they can battle. They have rematches that would be better than fresh fights that I can think of that are in-house for Terence Crawford, and that's just the reality of it. So I think Terence Crawford and Bomac, Top Rank, they probably have to go back to the table and they should really consider, the options and see what makes sense and see if they could land one of these guys. And sometimes in boxing, I guess you got to put friendships aside for your own career, and for your own personal growth and things like that. So hopefully a fight like that could get made. Again, if he doesn't fight a PBC guy, I really don't know who he can fight staying at 147. Was he going to rematch Jose Benavidez, a guy he stopped? And a guy who was supposed to fight Collazo but pulled out because he had an injury again. I just don't see the the relevance of fights like that. You know, I think everyone at this point knows Crawford is a dog and he's good. It's just the next and only chapter would be to show that against the guys who are also good with big brands and big names, because anything else is like uncivilized. Let me know what you guys think. That's my thoughts. A lot of people were asking me what I thought about Shawn Porter versus Crawford. I love it. And the thing is, Kenny Porter is the manager and trainer of Shawn Porter. So I feel like Kenny's kind of been pushing for the fight. Hey, call us. We got the green light. Let's make the fight happen. So Shawn Porter, from what I've seen, and, you know, and knowing them, I feel like Shawn Porter is usually in agreement with what his dad's direction and what his dad decides as well. So I feel like this would, the Porters are down for the fight. And the other thing, the other angle that I got to talk about too real quick is Tim Bradley looks foolish because he just did a rant on national TV on ESPN saying that, oh, Terence Crawford's the best welterweight. Not a problem. If you think he's the best welterweight, it's definitely arguable, debatable, right? But he also said everybody on PBC, you know, as a whole are cowards except for Deontay Wilder. And he only gave Deontay Wilder credit because he said Wilder's fighting Tyson Fury, an ESPN fighter. So he went company man 2000 and said that foolishness. And now you have an interview with Terence Crawford, who is pretty much downplaying and saying he's not worried about and or interested in a fight with Shawn Porter, who is a credible welterweight name. So Danny Garcia just did an interview also, and I made a video about it, saying he would fight Crawford. So you have two guys with PBC. Errol Spence, even though he's coming from an injury, he just said he'll fight Terence Crawford, but he's planning on coming back in May and June. So Terence Crawford has some options. They just have to be realistic and come to the table. But Tim Bradley, his comments look like definitely foolish now. He said nobody is willing, everyone's cowards, and everyone's running from Crawford. But then Crawford openly says on tape that I'm not really checking for a Shawn Porter fight. And he's just dismissing it and dismissive, like that's someone I'm cool with and I don't really have any interest to fight him. You know, that's not, to me, it's not a good look. You're even seeing people say that he's ducking Shawn Porter. So either way, Tim Bradley's, whatever you feel about that, let me know in the comment section. But Tim Bradley's comments look asinine, especially when you can't say everybody within the company is ducking you, and then people within the company try to fight you, and then you dismiss them and say, nah, we're cool. I'm friends. And again, I don't know the extent of their friendship, but I know they're cool, and like fights in Vegas, sometimes Crawford would go to his gym, things like that. But I didn't think they were friends to the point where they couldn't fight. Even Danny Garcia and Adrian Broner, they're friends, and they said, yeah, if the dollar signs is right, we'd fight each other for sure. You know, nothing personal. So it's almost hard to have friends in your division in boxing, you know, unless there's like a deep-rooted history. So I think Crawford should explore this or talk to his team. I don't think he should do interviews. This is just my opinion, of course. I don't think he should necessarily do interviews and dismiss the whole idea and say, I'm not worried about him. It's not a fight that interests me. I'm not really interested, you know, because it doesn't add to the mystique and definitely doesn't add to what Tim Bradley was saying about everybody is afraid to fight Terence Crawford. You just can't do that. You can't say, that's like Wilder saying everybody at Matchroom is ducking me, and then Dillian White wants to fight him, or Anthony Joshua wants to fight him, or a Matchroom fight. You know, it just wouldn't make sense. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. If you love what I'm doing, smash the like button. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.
So the deal here, you have Terence Crawford is a star welterweight. All the other top guys are on the other side of the
That's
seat.
not true.
It is true, Bob.
That's not true.
The fights that the fans want to see.
Well,
are
fights that guys who, like you, who write, I would bet any amount of money that Rasputin and Kavalskis
I'm not, no, you're
can beat
misunderstanding.
these
You're
guys.
misunderstanding my point. You may be right about their ability. I'm talking about what the public and what the media.
How do you know what the public wants?
I hear from them every single day.
Come on, because you're the one who is spouting guys like Porter, guys like Garcia.
So tell me,
they're not
and
elite
they
fighters.
have titles though. They have belts. That's what he wants.
Who
Belts.
gives a damn?
You gave a damn when you made him dynamite.
A
lot of people think Spence is better or just as good.
Okay, that's Spence.
Just Spence.
All the other guys I discard. They're not in the same league. Spence may be in the same league. I would love to make the Spence.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.